Should I stand here or is there enough room? I don't know if this is enough room. What are we gonna do? I'll just ignore that. Does it seem fine? Should I wear glasses or no? Ow. Should I do it without the glasses? Is it better without the glasses? Can I see? I can't really see. Does it matter if I can see? Nah, it's fine. Yeah, this is fine. This is fine. Welcome to my January reading rack up. Nope, rack up? That was too much enthusiasm. Okay, because this reflection is bothering me. I don't know what to do about that. I got glasses. I gotta see. I have my handy dandy iPad here. Is this how you do like one of those stills or whatever? Like the frame, the thumbnail? You just stand and like hold something? That was a weird face. I don't know what that was. I'm gonna figure out how to, where do I put my hand? How does my hand do this? Can I just high five me and this is where the book will go? I'm gonna be good at this. I can already tell. Right. Okay, so we're gonna recap. All right, so I read nope. Why is this hard? This is harder than I thought it would be. Props to all the YouTube people who do this as their jobs, because I couldn't. There's no fucking way. Can you say that? I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Hi, so we are going to do a video wrap up of all of my reading from January. Wait, why is my arm up here? Okay, well, off to a great start. Welcome to my January reading wrap up. I decided that I'm gonna do videos this year. I don't know why, I just decided. It seemed like fun. So, yeah. I read 39 books in January, which I know sounds like a lot, but a lot of them are manga, so I mean, it is a lot. I guess it is a lot. I read a lot in January. It's probably historically my most books read in a month ever. But January is also usually the month that I read the most because I tend to like not read a lot in December. And then by the time January rolls around, I'm like a book fiend and I need to read everything I can get my hands on. So last year, I think I actually read 31 books in January, and this month I read 39. So yeah, let's get into those. So my top 5 favorite books of the month. Let's do those first. First, I read The Villa, and I really liked this one. It was sort of advertised as being like Daisy Jones and the Six, but horror-y. And I know that that sounds kind of weird, but it actually really, really worked. I loved it. I love stories with like toxic best friends, especially when there's like a dual timeline sort of thing going on, and this one had all that. So it checked all my boxes. I loved it. Had a really pretty cover, which I packed all my books, so I'm going to be doing a pop-up for all of these. You should probably see that now if I have figured out how to do it. Fingers crossed. It was my second book by the author, I think, and I liked the first one I read. Blanking on the name right now. I'm gonna pop it up here if I can figure out how to do that. I liked it, but this one I liked more, so. Okay, and then the next one is Our Wives Under the Sea, which I think this one was kind of sold or marketed as very horror-y, but I personally think that it's a little bit more like lit fiction-y, which I like literary fiction, so I liked it, but I think if somebody were going into it expecting it to be really, really like purely horror, I can see why some of the ratings are what they are. Yeah, still go into it expecting it to not be like completely pure horror, and I think you'll like it. It was really, really beautifully written. It's about, did I even say what the other one was about? It's too late. Okay, we'll start now. I'm gonna get the hang of this thing, I swear it. So this one is about 2 women, 2 wives. Only one of them went under the sea. This is so dumb. Okay. This one is about 2 wives who are having troubles. One of them went away for work and she traveled under the sea, and something kind of didn't go according to plan. And I don't want to say too much because I think it's better to go into it not really knowing what's going on, because it kind of like tells it to you as you go. But it was really, really unsettling and it was really sad. I didn't expect it to be so sad, and I really liked that because I love stuff that makes me sad. So was a win for me. Up next, I read Juniper and Thorn. This was my first book by the author, and I really liked it. A lot of the reviews said that it was like sexualized, like too much sexualizing in it, which I can understand why they said that, but also after reading those reviews, I expected more of it. It deals with abuse. It's kind of like a gothic fairy tale-y sort of thing in vibe, and it's about these 3 girls, mostly just the one, but her 2 sisters as well, and their father. They live with him. They're witches. He's a wizard, and I don't know. I really liked it. It's kind of, there's a really, really romance-heavy subplot. I don't even know if I would say a subplot because it's such a big part of the book. So if you don't really like romance type stuff, I think you might not like this one because this has a lot of that in it, even though it does feel like pretty solidly horror and like fantasy and gothic-y. But yeah, it's got a heavy dose of romance and, you know, like packages in tights. So if that's your thing, you might like it. The next book is actually my first short story collection read of the year, so that's exciting. It's got a beautiful cover. I love it. It's so pretty. This is a collection that's kind of like sci-fi sort of. I saw a couple of people compare it to Black Mirror, and I think that is probably pretty accurate, but I would say the stories feel like as if they were written by a romance author who was trying to write a season of Black Mirror. Like, they're not really romantic, and there aren't a lot of like good romance relationships in them, but okay, let me fix that. I think this feels like it was written by somebody who writes a lot about troubled marriages and then was asked to write a season of Black Mirror. Yes. Yeah, because there was like a big theme of like troubled marriages and like unhappy moms and women and wives. So yeah, that was, I mean, some of it I could relate to, but I don't have any children, so some of it I couldn't. And then I'm also not married and I don't hate my boyfriend, so I also could not relate to some of that. But the stories themselves are really, really cool. I loved the sci-fi aspect of it. I loved the introduction of the blots. A couple of my favorite stories were the really weird ones. So I really liked one that had to do with like, instead of comparing like boobs and butts and things like that, how society does in like the modern age for women, instead of that, it was more so like, oh, you have like a longer liver, how sexy. And I don't know, I thought that was so weird. It kind of made how we view women and which parts of us are better than others seem really trivial and silly, which it is. So I liked it. I thought that was cool. There were also just some really creepy things in there. There was one about this woman who has like this like storage box safe house thing in her basement, and the end of that story I was not expecting. It completely took me like out, and then like it was wild. And then I really also like the framing device from the first story in the collection and the last story in the collection, both having like similar themes. It's like almost as if all of these things could exist in the same world. So I don't know. It was really cool. It was really weird, but in a good way. I liked it. Okay, and then my final book in my favorites was A Psalm for the Wild Built, which was my first Becky Chambers book, I think. I have a couple of other ones, but I don't think I've read them yet. I'm going to now because I like this one so much. It made me cry twice. And again, I like stuff that makes me sad, even if it's like a happy sad sort of thing. It felt very cozy and like, I don't know, I just really liked it. It was sweet. Like, this is the first time I'd read about anything where like people come up to you and it's sort of like a therapeutic like experience where the person making the tea like serves it to them and knows what they want based on like how well they know them and how well they read them and how their conversation goes. And I thought that was really interesting, and I loved reading that part of the whole story, like those bits where, you know, the monk they were talking to different like people and customers that would come to the little trolley or truck, or I don't remember what it was, caravan or something. I thought that was really cool. And then it's also about robots. So it's like, if it's kind of like in a future world maybe, but it's like in a world where people had robots and then the robots just up and left. And we're like, I'm done with this. Leave us alone. We're going to go out into the wilderness and do our own thing. You guys are here to fend for yourselves. And so humanity basically has to like live again without any like robots. Sometimes you need a cozy cry. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Am I the only person who needs a cozy cry? I can't be. I'm not. I can't be. Okay, so the next 4 books are ones that I didn't super love, and I'm just going to go through them really quickly. I'm not going to like blast them or say what I didn't love about them. Well, I'll say a little bit about each one. Okay, so the first one's What Lies in the Woods, and this is a new release thriller. It's the first adult book from Kate Alice Marshall, who is one of my favorite authors, and I've read their teen fiction and I read their like middle grade fiction, and I loved both. So when I heard that they were doing an adult book, I was very excited. And maybe that was on me. Maybe it was my expectations that kind of set me up, because I expected a lot and then I did not get it and I was disappointed. I will also say that I read a lot of thrillers personally, and if I can figure out everything that's going to happen in the rest of the book from early on, that makes me not like the reading experience. But I know that that is not the case for everybody. Some people don't mind it being a little bit predictable. Some people won't guess those things that I would, because they don't read as much of the thriller genre, or they just don't try to guess it in general, and that's fine. So definitely go check this out if you are excited about it. I don't want to dissuade anybody. Same for the next couple. I feel bad talking about books I didn't like, so yeah. Sorry. Okay, and then the next one is a library book. It's called A Good Idea. This one was okay. I just don't get the point. Like, they tell you pretty early on, maybe even in the jacket, like synopsis, who done it, you know, and why, or maybe I guess they don't tell you why, so maybe is that the point of the book, because the main character wants to figure out why what happened. I don't really know, but I didn't enjoy it because I kept expecting like an actual twist or something that wasn't exactly what they fed to me in the beginning, and it just stayed that. So it was fine. It was okay. I also don't think any of the characters, it was supposed to be a YA thriller, and I don't think any of the characters read as YA. Like, it didn't feel like a YA book to me. It felt like it could have just been an adult thriller. So I don't know if that was maybe mismarketed or what, but yeah. Okay, and then the next one, please do not come for me. I know a lot of people love this book and I don't want to make enemies. The Last House on Needless Street. I didn't like it. Yeah, the twist in this is a specific thing that I personally do not like being used as a twist, and I don't think belongs in thrillers as a twist. That's a personal thing for me. I'm not going to say what it is. If you've read it, you know, and if you feel differently, that's totally fine. It's up to you, whatever. But for me personally, when they're like, haha, this is the twist. There's another book, which I'm not going to say the name of it because that would give away what the twist is if you've read that. But there is another book that was made into even like a movie, and it had a similar twist, and I did like that book more, but again, the twist is not something that I like. I feel like, oh, this is gonna immediately make me unpopular, but I feel like in genre fiction there are certain things that don't need to be used as twists, and that's one of them for me. So yeah, sorry, I didn't like it. But I did like the author's writing. I do want to say that, and I'm going to be reading her next 2 books, which I also have. So sorry that I didn't like it if it was your favorite book of like the last couple years, but it is what it is. And then another one that I know a lot of people like, this one was like a really short novella, and it is A House at the Bottom of a Lake. And I actually liked the first 80% of this one quite a bit, but the ending really just, it wasn't for me, and I detracted quite a bit for it. I personally don't like stuff that's very open-ended at the ending, and like open-ended at the ending. I don't like endings that are very open and left like open to interpretation. They don't please me. I don't know if it's because I'm autistic or what, but I like things to be very concrete and linear, even if it's like twisty along the way, but the ending, I want to know why. I want to know what happened. I want to know why it happened, especially if the whole book was leading up to that. So when the whole book was leading up to something and then like it just changes, and then the ending is like ambiguous, I am not a happy camper, and I didn't like it. Sorry. Okay, so my only nonfiction book, which kind of sucks because I told myself I was going to read a lot more nonfiction this year, so here's hoping the other 11 months are better. But my only nonfiction book this month was Cursed Objects, and I really liked this. It has little illustrations that go with each story, and my only note is that I almost kind of wish that they had actual pictures along with the illustrations, because while I did like the illustrations, I then had to Google what the actual things looked like several times, which I could have just kept reading if it was in the book. Like, I didn't have to stop. So, all right, so another one of my reading goals was that I was going to read more series this year. So I started that. I started January off with a series bang. I read the first 5 books in the Wayward Children series, which I don't know if I can fit them all here. I don't know what that was. But these were all rereads for me. And I actually read the short story as well, the Juice Like Wounds, that goes in between them after, I think, In an Absent Dream. So other than the short story, these were all rereads for me. I love this series. It is my favorite series. I literally recommend it to everybody that I talk to who's like, do you have a book recommendation? I'm like, Wayward Children books. You have to go read them. They're great. Like, every time. If you don't know, I told you I wasn't going to go into a lot of like summaries here, but this whole series is basically about like how children disappear into doorways to other worlds and what happens to them when they come back. So you know how you're like reading about like how Wendy goes off with Peter Pan to like Neverland, like in the canon of these books and this series, that could be a door that was taken to this different world. And then like what happens to Wendy when she comes back? Like, how does she adjust? How does she live with that? Some of the books are focused on like a main cast of characters that's shared, but then a couple of the books in between are about specific worlds that they go into. So like a little bit more in depth. There's just so much, and there's still so much that they could explore because it's limitless. You can just keep finding worlds and keep making stuff up. And I hope that it never stops being written because I love it so much. And my reread was just as good, if not better, than every other read before it. I loved it. It was so good. So good. So good. I'm going to be reading the next couple as well because the new one came out in January. I did not get to it in January, although I wanted to, but I got an advanced reading copy of it. Sorry that I did not read it in time, but gonna definitely be reading it in February, so we're here for it. Love it. Another series that I'm reading, well, rereading, and this one's a little bit, I'm just gonna say it. I am rereading the Anita Blake books. So the entire series, it is what I call the, I don't know what you're allowed to say on here, but it's like my vampire sex series, which it's just because the first few books, honestly, the first like 5 books are super focused on like horror and fantasy and like fighting. There are gunfights. There's a ton of gory murder. There's so much death and blood. Like, it's wild. It's wild. But then when you get like 10 books into the series, it is pure smut. Like, it's not even like soft smut. It is like smut. Like, it is just, whew, it is out there, out there. And again, it's urban fantasy, so there are were-creatures like were-leopards and werewolves, and there are vampires and there are witches, and there are all kinds of things. And I don't know what else I can say. I'm having fun with my reread. I haven't gotten to the smutty bits yet, unfortunately. But I'm still pretty early on. I think I only finished the first 4 books this month of the series, so I'm nowhere near the smutty stuff yet, but it's wild how formative these must have been for me, because when I was like 15, 16, I was like reading these, just eating them up, gobbling them, which in retrospect, I was probably maybe like, I don't know if I should have been doing that, but there are things that the main character says that I'm like, this is where I got it. Like, she's obsessed with like coffee and she's always drinking it. It's like her comfort drink. And I always I'm always saying like coffee is my comfort drink. I love coffee. Like, it makes me so happy. And did I love coffee before I read these when I was 15? I don't know, but who cares? It's great. It's fun. I love rereading these. They're so much fun. I will say that there are some problematic things because these books were originally written in the early 90s. So go into this just knowing that they were written in the early 90s. It's not a lot, I will say, but there are a couple of things. And then the final book in the series section is Life as We Knew It, which this is another reread for me. I read this one when I was a teenager. I don't really remember actually. And I didn't know that it was a series until I was at a thrift store like 3 years ago, and I found the first 3 books of the series and I just got them because it was like $5 for all 3. And they've been sitting on my shelf for ages, like since then. Finally decided to maybe like, and because this is my series year, I was like, this is the year I'm going to go and read all my series, and including this one. So I reread the first book, and unfortunately, I did not like it as much as I remembered liking it when I was younger. Like, don't get me wrong, it wasn't super bad. It's basically just, it felt very YA, and I think there's nothing wrong with that, but I think there are certain times where I'm able to lean more into a YA genre type of book than others, and January, I guess, was not that month for me because it didn't work and I did not like it, and I packed the whole series up without finishing it. I just did the first one and I was like, that's enough for now. I think I'm gonna put these away for another time. So yeah. Oh, so quickly, there were 4 things that I read that were digital this month, so they weren't in my like photo wrap-up thing that I posted on Instagram, but those were, again, the Wayward Children's story Juice Like Wounds, which I really liked. I thought it was really good. I also read The Juniper Tree, which is a short story, but on Goodreads it counted as its own thing, so I just decided to count it as a separate book because I can. And it was my first time reading that, and I read that because I was reading Juniper and Thorn, so I didn't, this is like kind of, Juniper and Thorn is kind of inspired by The Juniper Tree. I had no experience with The Juniper Tree, so I tried to read that, and I did. It was fine. I don't think I needed to read that before reading Juniper and Thorn, and if you're wondering, you probably don't either. It didn't add anything for me, so yeah. And then I also read volume 10 of Sweat and Soap, which is manga, and it's very cute. I love it. It sounds like the synopsis of this one is a little weird and it sounds very strange, but if you give it a chance, like they are the cutest couple. Like I don't read a lot of romance manga, but this, so good. It's so cute. And then I had an early copy digitally of a poetry collection called A Chained Beast, and thank you to the publisher for that one as well. And I really like this. I had some formatting issues with my copy, so it did kind of impact my reading experience a little bit. Like it was very difficult to get into the flow of any specific poem because they would be like chopped up and then the title of the book or like the page numbers were in the middle of it. And I didn't realize it was happening, so I thought at first that the author was just putting like the title, A Chained Beast, in the poems with like, and then there would be like a random like 24, and I'm like, what? And I thought it was part of the poetry. It's not. It was a formatting issue. So yeah, I really like poetry. I read a lot of it. This, I will probably be getting a physical copy later once it's out at some point. It's not a super high priority, but I liked it enough when I was reading it digitally, even with the formatting issues, to want it in my collection. So okay, and so now for the manga I read, which I'm just going to go through really quickly. Chainsaw Man, which is my favorite. If you've read it, if you've watched it, it is so good. I'm obsessed. Volume 6 and 9. I think I read 5 through 11 or 5 through 10, whichever the most recent one is. I read 5 through that this month, and 6 and 9 made me cry. Both of them. I was a mess, and when they put that into the show, I think it's going to be in season 2, which comes out later this year. I am gonna be destroyed. Like my heart emotionally, I can't take it. It makes me, just thinking about it now is making me like, I can't. So yeah, Chainsaw Man, highly recommend. There are bits of it that are like silly and stupid, like dumb, but it's so good. And it does like, it has a really good heart, like at its core, which I know sounds so cheesy, but it does, it really does. And then I read Happy Sugar Life volumes 2 through 4, which I got these last year, I believe, and I didn't know what it was about. I thought it was like cute and pink. It is like psychological horror, and there are some problematic things in there, but it's not like they're supposed to be good. But for example, there's like a, I don't know if I can say this. I'm just going to tell you to look into it yourself about what it is about and read the reviews because it's not what I was expecting. Yeah. And I like horror stuff, but this is, and I'm you know, I read it. It's fine. It's whatever. But I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know that that's what this is about. So I read the first volume of Spy Family, which is my first time reading it. I started watching the show as well, and I'm obsessed. I love it. I don't have the other volumes. My library doesn't have them, so I can't read them right now, but I'm going to be watching the show and keep watching it because I'm obsessed. It's so cute. It's so cute. Little Anya is so cute. So cute. I read volume 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen, which it's okay. I think maybe for me, this series is not the best. Like the first one was a little slow and I was expecting it would pick up, and then the second one I was just like, okay, like I get it, more of this. So I don't know, does it get better? Maybe it gets better. I don't know. I haven't seen the show, so I don't know. I have no idea. But at this point, I probably don't want to read more of it, I think. I read The Liminal Zone, which is Junji Ito's new like collection, and I really liked it. There were 2 stories in it. I think there were only like 4 or 5 maybe, but there were 2 that stood out to me a lot that I really liked. And then the rest were just okay. It was fine. I mean, I never dislike any of the things in his collection, so fine. And then I reread Mooncakes this month because it was just really cute, and I got like a special edition over Christmas as like a gift. So I wanted to reread it because it was cute and I liked it. I liked it a lot. There was some stuff that I didn't even remember the first time, so I thought that was cool. I don't know if there's more to this series, but I want to read more of it. Like I just want the whole world. Like it's so cute. All right, and then last I read the first volume of Blood on the Tracks, which the whole volume I was like, why does everybody love this? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. And then I got to the end and I was like, what is happening? What? Like, and my library doesn't have number 2 and I don't have number 2. So I'm like currently like, gotta figure this out. Like, don't tell me what happens, but I'm excited about it. I really like it now. So don't let the beginning of a book fool you. The end might pop off. Okay, so that's it. That is all 39 books I read, at least I think it is. If I missed any of them, oops, sorry. I'm going to try to do one of these every month. I don't know how it's gonna go after March because of the whole move thing, but fingers crossed that it works out and this wasn't super boring. I will probably be reading less in a month moving forward, and if that happens, I will try to go a little bit more into what the books are about. But I was kind of rushing for this one because I didn't even know if it would be good or boring or if anybody would like it. So tell me if you do, okay? Thank you so much for watching this. You can, should I do that like and subscribe thing if I'm sharing it to Patreon? Or maybe I'll eventually share this on YouTube too. If you're seeing this and you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're seeing this on Patreon, thank you. You're great. If you're not on my Patreon and you want to be, come on, hang out, let's go. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Bye.